Americans consume over 16 billion pounds of seafood every single year, making the United States one of the largest seafood markets on the planet. With numbers like that, you'd expect seafood restaurants to be some of the best-run chains in the country. But seafood is unforgiving. When sourcing is lazy, when freshness is compromised, or when preparation is rushed, the results are immediately obvious. Rubbery fish, freezer-burn flavors, and meals that taste more like regret than the ocean. And yet, many seafood chains continue to thrive by relying on themes, nostalgia, and marketing gimmicks instead of actual quality. Pirate decor, movie references, endless promotions, all distractions from what really matters. Fresh seafood cooked properly. Today we're cutting through the noise. We're re-ranking America's 12 most recognizable seafood restaurant chains from absolute worst to undeniably best, based on taste, freshness, preparation, and whether the food actually respects the ingredient. From frozen disasters to seafood done right, this list will probably upset a few people. And that's exactly the point. Worst number 1. Long John Silver's. Long John Silver AS is the clearest example of how far a seafood chain can fall after losing respect for its core ingredient. Founded in 1969, the brand once introduced millions of Americans to fast food seafood. Today, it represents everything that goes wrong when convenience replaces quality. The fish routinely tastes like it's been sitting under heat lamps far too long. The breading swings wildly between soggy and rock hard, with no crispness in between. Even when served hot, the flavor is muted and oily, masking whatever seafood character might have existed before freezing and over-processing took over. Their sides don't help. Hush puppies are often limp and greasy, coleslaw tastes pre-bagged and overly sweet, and fries feel like filler rather than support. Worse, menu items marketed as premium, like lobster bites, are made from langostino, a cheaper crustacean that tastes nothing like lobster but is sold as if customers won't notice. The entire experience feels closer to a gas station fryer than a seafood restaurant. Long John Silver's ranks dead last, not because it's cheap, but because it forgot what seafood is supposed to taste like. When the ocean flavor disappears and only grease remains, the ship has officially sunk. Worst number 2, Bubba Gump Shrimp. Bubba Gump Shrimp Co. is proof that a strong movie tie-in can carry a restaurant much farther than the food ever could. Launched in 1996 and inspired by Forrest Gump, the chain thrives in tourist-heavy areas where nostalgia and memorabilia do most of the heavy lifting. The problem is simple. The seafood doesn't live up to the setting. Shrimp, the backbone of the entire brand, routinely tastes frozen and one-dimensional. Whether fried, boiled, or coconut-crusted, the shrimp lacks the natural sweetness and snap you expect from quality seafood. Instead, most dishes rely on overly sweet or heavy sauces to manufacture flavor rather than enhance it. Buckets of shrimp sound fun, but execution is forgettable. Everything blurs together because the base ingredient never shines. It feels like the same industrial shrimp used across countless chain restaurants, dressed up with movie quotes and themed presentation. The menu is designed to entertain first and feed second. Trivia cards on tables, branded signs, and servers quizzing guests about the movie all work to distract from the fact that the food itself is average at best. Bubba Gump ranks this low because it's a classic tourist trap. Memorable atmosphere, forgettable seafood. You leave remembering the movie references, not the meal. Worst number 3, Joe's Crab Shack. Joe's Crab Shack was once the go-to spot for messy, hands-on seafood fun. Buckets of crab legs, loud music, dancing servers. The concept worked because the food backed it up. That's no longer the case. Today, cost-cutting is impossible to ignore. Crab legs are often small, dry, and frustrating to crack, leaving you working harder for less meat. Shrimp lacks seasoning and sweetness, and crawfish, when available, frequently tastes muddy instead of clean and briny. The biggest betrayal is the butter. Joe's famously uses margarine instead of real butter for dipping sauces. For a seafood restaurant charging premium prices, that alone is unacceptable. The seasoning blends that once tasted bold now feel artificial and overly salty, masking poor ingredient quality rather than enhancing it. Sides don't save the meal either. Corn and potatoes arrive overcooked and mushy, turning what should be a satisfying seafood boil into a sloppy plate of disappointment. Joe's Crab Shack ranks this low because it chose spectacle over substance. When the fun wears off and you're left with subpar seafood, the experience collapses. Seafood should be indulgent, not a compromise. Worst, number 4, Red Lobster. Red Lobster is the most famous seafood chain in America, and that's exactly why its decline matters. Founded in 1968, Red Lobster introduced generations of Americans to seafood beyond fish sticks. Unfortunately, scale and shortcuts have caught up with it. The biggest issue is ingredient honesty. Many lobster dishes use langostino instead of real lobster, a cheaper substitute that tastes nothing like the sweet, rich meat customers expect. When real lobster is served, it's often overcooked and rubbery, a cardinal sin in seafood. Shrimp scampi regularly arrives chewy. Crab legs are inconsistent, sometimes packed with meat, sometimes nearly empty. The kitchen lacks the precision seafood demands, relying on sauces and promotions to distract from uneven execution. Yes, the Cheddar Bay biscuits are excellent, but biscuits can't carry an entire seafood restaurant. Red Lobster survives on nostalgia and marketing rather than freshness and technique. It ranks in the lower half because it knows better, but does worse. Red Lobster isn't terrible, it's disappointing. And in seafood, disappointment is worse than failure because expectations are already set high. Your worst, number 5. Bonefish Grill. Bonefish Grill positions itself as refined, upscale casual seafood, and visually, it delivers. The dining rooms are comfortable, the service is polished, and the menu reads like a greatest hits list designed to offend no one. That's also the problem. The seafood is generally fresh and competently cooked, but rarely memorable. Grilled fish arrives properly done, not overcooked, not underseasoned, just safe. There's little risk-taking, little personality, and almost no sense that seafood is the star, rather than one option among many. Their lone breakout hit is Bang Bang Shrimp, which is genuinely excellent, crispy, well-seasoned, and coated in a creamy, spicy sauce that actually enhances the shrimp. Unfortunately, it also highlights the rest of the menu's restraint. When your appetizer outshines most entrees, that's a red flag. Bonefish also puts heavy emphasis on cocktails, wine, and atmosphere. The bar program is strong, arguably stronger than the seafood itself. That tells you where the priorities lie. Bonefish Grill lands in the middle because it's reliable but unexciting. It's seafood for people who want to feel sophisticated without being challenged. Nothing is wrong, but nothing is exceptional either. Worst, number 6. Rockfish Seafood Grill. Rockfish Seafood Grill proves that regional seafood chains often outperform national giants. Operating mainly in Texas, Rockfish brings Gulf Coast and Cajun-inspired seafood to areas far from the ocean, and actually does it well. The menu shows real focus. Fresh fish is offered grilled, blackened, or pecan-crusted, and those aren't afterthoughts, they're properly executed. Dishes like crawfish etouffee and shrimp and grits show genuine understanding of Cajun technique, with proper roux depth and seasoning that builds flavor instead of overwhelming it. Seafood boils are prepared with attention to tradition, and sides like dirty rice and hush puppies feel intentional rather than filler. This is comfort seafood with cultural roots, not frozen product dressed up as coastal cuisine. The limitation is scale. With a relatively small footprint, Rockfish doesn't have the national recognition it deserves. Prices on premium items can also surprise diners unfamiliar with market-based seafood pricing. Rockfish ranks above the middle because it respects seafood and regional flavor. It's not flashy, but it's honest. And in chain seafood, that's rare. Worst, number 7. Crab du jour. Crab du jour represents the modern Cajun seafood boil wave. And unlike many trend-chasing chains, this one actually understands its lane. Founded in 2019 and expanding rapidly across the East Coast, Crab du jour is built around customizable seafood boils, and that's exactly where it shines. The format is simple and effective. You choose seafood by the pound: shrimp, snow crab, king crab, crawfish, mussels, clams, then select a sauce and spice level. Everything is cooked fresh, tossed in sauce, and served hot in the bag. When done right, the result is rich, messy, and deeply satisfying. Their Cajun butter and garlic butter sauces are balanced, flavorful, and not just heat-forward. The seafood generally tastes fresh, properly cooked, and well-seasoned, which is more than can be said for many competitors. Where crab du jour stumbles is outside the boil. Fried items like wings, po' boys, and baskets feel like afterthoughts, clearly added to broaden appeal rather than because the kitchen excels at them. Crab du jour ranks here because it knows what it does well and mostly sticks to it. Focus on the boils, and you'll leave happy. Drift from them, and quality drops fast. Best number 8, the boiling crab. The boiling crab didn't just join the seafood boil trend, it created it. Founded in 2004 by Vietnamese-American entrepreneurs, the chain pioneered the Viet Cajun boil style that has since been copied across the country. What sets the boiling crab apart is flavor depth. Their legendary whole shebang seasoning isn't just spicy, it's layered. Butter, garlic, Cajun spice, and Vietnamese aromatics combine into something bold but balanced, enhancing the seafood rather than burying it. The seafood selection is broad and transparent. Crawfish, shrimp, crab, mussels, and clams are cooked to order, and the staff is honest about seasonality. If crawfish is frozen, they'll tell you. A level of honesty rare in chain seafood. Supporting dishes like gumbo and Cajun chowder show that this isn't a one-note kitchen. There's genuine culinary knowledge behind the menu, not just sauce dumping. The boiling crab ranks high because it's authentic, influential, and consistent. It didn't just sell seafood, it changed how Americans eat it. Best number 9, hook and reel. Hook and reel is what happens when a seafood boil concept scales without losing control. Founded in 2013, the chain expanded rapidly to dozens of locations nationwide. But unlike many fast-growing concepts, hook and reel kept its quality surprisingly intact. The build-your-own-boil system is approachable and consistent. Guests can choose seafood, sauce, and spice level, or opt for preset combos if decision fatigue hits. The boils arrive hot, well-seasoned, and properly cooked, with seafood that tastes fresh rather than waterlogged or overdone. What elevates hook and reel above many boil competitors is menu breadth done thoughtfully. Raw oysters, steamed oysters, fried lobster tail, and po' boys aren't just filler. They're executed with care. The oysters are plump and briny, the fried lobster tail feels indulgent without being greasy, and the sides complement the seafood instead of dragging it down. Prices are reasonable for seafood, and portion sizes feel fair. That matters when you're asking customers to spend real money on shellfish. Hook and reel ranks high because it balances customization, consistency, and quality. It proves that seafood boils can work at scale when systems are built around the food, not just the hype. Best number 10, hot and juicy crawfish. Hot and juicy crawfish earns its top-tier placement for one reason: the sauce is unforgettable. Founded in 2007 by Louisiana natives, hot and juicy doesn't chase trends. It perfects flavor. The signature hot and juicy sauce is widely considered the best in the boil category. It's not just spicy, it's layered, buttery, garlicky, and deeply savory. Every bite builds flavor instead of overwhelming the seafood. Customers don't just like it, they crave it. Even during off-season months when crawfish is frozen, hot and juicy handles it properly. The crawfish stays sweet, not muddy, and cooking times are dialed in. Shrimp, crab, and mussels all receive the same care, maintaining consistency across the menu. The chain has a smaller footprint than competitors, but that works in its favor. Quality control remains tight, and customer reviews consistently highlight flavor reliability. Features on food shows only amplified what regulars already knew. Hot and juicy ranks this high because it proves a simple truth. Great seafood boils live or die by their sauce, and here, the sauce is king. Best number 11, Pappadeaux Seafood Kitchen. Pappadeaux Seafood Kitchen is what happens when a chain refuses to water down regional cuisine for mass appeal. Based in Houston and concentrated mostly in Texas and the South, Pappadeaux delivers authentic Cajun and Gulf Coast seafood with a menu that most chains would be too scared to attempt. This is not a safe menu. You'll find crawfish étouffée, shrimp and grits, blackened catfish, seafood gumbo, fried alligator, and even frog legs, dishes that require real technique and cultural knowledge to execute properly, and remarkably they pull it off consistently. The gumbo has a deep, dark roux with layers of flavor that take time to develop. The etouffee is rich and balanced, not floury or bland. Fried seafood is crisp without being greasy, and portions are generous without feeling wasteful. What makes pappardelle special is that it feels like a celebration. The atmosphere is lively, loud, and energetic, but the food never gets lost in the noise. Quality holds across locations, which is impressive given the complexity of the menu. Pappardelle ranks number 2 because it proves you can scale real Cajun cooking without betraying its roots. That's rare and worthy of the podium. Best number 12, Legal Seafoods. Legal Seafoods earns the top spot because it does the one thing most seafood chains want: it respects the ingredient above all else. Founded as a fish market in 1950 and opening its first restaurant in 1968, Legal Seafoods built its reputation on a simple promise: if it isn't fresh, it isn't legal. And unlike most slogans, they actually live by it. Seafood here is sourced daily from trusted suppliers. Preparation is restrained and confident. Fish is grilled, broiled, or lightly fried to highlight natural flavor rather than bury it under sauce. Their New England clam chowder is so respected it's been served at multiple U.S. presidential inaugurations. Not as a gimmick, but as a benchmark. The raw bar is pristine. Oysters taste clean and briny. Fried clams use whole bellies in light batter. Lobster rolls are balanced, letting sweet lobster meat lead instead of drowning it in mayo. Fish and chips use fresh cod with crisp batter that never overpowers the fish. Legal Seafoods didn't chase rapid nationwide expansion, and that restraint shows. The restaurants feel upscale but welcoming, serious but not stuffy. This is seafood done right, consistently, honestly, and without shortcuts. That is why Legal Seafoods isn't just the best seafood chain, it's one of the best seafood restaurants in America, period. Seafood exposes shortcuts faster than almost any other food. You can't fake freshness. You can't hide poor sourcing behind marketing forever, and this ranking proves it. The chains at the bottom rely on themes, nostalgia, and gimmicks to distract from frozen fish and careless preparation. The chains at the top do the opposite. They respect seasonality, cook simply, and let seafood taste like the ocean, not the freezer. What separates the best from the rest isn't size or popularity, it's standards. The willingness to say no to rapid expansion, no to substitutions, and no to cutting corners. If there's one takeaway here, it's this. When it comes to seafood, less manipulation means better food. Now your turn. Which seafood chain did we underrate? Which one disappointed you the most? Drop a comment, hit subscribe for more honest food rankings, and until next time, keep it fresh, keep it simple, and never settle for frozen pretending to be premium.